Lewis Hamilton may have just exposed Ferrari's biggest hidden problem, without even trying to. Because after Canada, something shocking became impossible to ignore. The 7-time world champion looked faster, calmer, and more natural in the SF26, after relying less on Ferrari's simulator data. And that should terrify Ferrari. Because while Hamilton was fighting Max Verstappen for second place, Charles Leclerc was suffering through what he later called one of the worst weekends of his entire career. Same car, same setup tools, completely opposite reality. But here is where the story becomes explosive. Ferrari already admitted they still have unresolved correlation problems between the simulator and the real behavior of the car on track. That means the information drivers trust before the race may not actually match what happens once they hit the circuit. And Canada may have exposed the consequences brutally. Because while Leclerc kept chasing a setup that never truly worked, Hamilton slowly stopped forcing the simulator's answers and started driving purely on feel, instinct, and adaptation. The result changed everything inside Ferrari. Hamilton delivered his best performance since joining the team. Leclerc completely lost confidence in the SF26. And now the tension inside Maranello is exploding for one terrifying reason. What if Ferrari's simulator is not helping the drivers? What if it is actually making the car harder to understand? Because once you see how differently Hamilton and Leclerc reacted to the exact same Ferrari in Canada, the entire future of the SF26 suddenly looks far more unstable than anyone inside the paddock expected. Subscribe if you love Formula One stories that reveal what teams desperately try to hide. At first, Canada looked like a normal split weekend for Ferrari. One driver comfortable, one driver struggling. That happens sometimes in Formula One. But the deeper Ferrari investigated the data afterward, the more uncomfortable the situation became. Because this was not just a setup difference. It was a philosophy difference. Charles Leclerc spent the weekend trying to make the SF26 behave the way the simulator predicted it should. Lewis Hamilton slowly abandoned that approach altogether. And that changes everything. Now, to understand why this became such a massive internal issue, you need to understand how important simulators are in modern Formula One. Teams trust them for almost everything. Setup direction, brake balance, tire preparation, energy deployment. Drivers spend hours inside these systems before ever touching the real car on track. The simulator is supposed to tell the team what the car will feel like before the weekend even starts. But Ferrari already admitted they still have unresolved correlation problems between the simulator and the actual behavior of the SF26 on real circuits. That is terrifying for a top team. Because once simulation data stops matching reality, drivers start chasing answers that do not exist. And Canada may have exposed that problem brutally. Leclerc later admitted the car never felt right from the very first practice session onward. Not qualifying, not the race, Friday morning. That matters. Because when a driver loses confidence immediately and never recovers it, engineers usually know something deeper is wrong. Think about practicing for weeks on a flight simulator, then climbing into the real aircraft and discovering the controls react differently in the air. Your instincts stop trusting the machine. That was Leclerc's reality in Canada. Every adjustment Ferrari made seemed to create another problem. Tires overheated. Braking confidence disappeared. The balance never stabilized. And eventually, Charles openly admitted he felt disconnected from the car almost the entire weekend. Meanwhile, Hamilton approached the exact same Ferrari completely differently. At first, Lewis struggled too. That part is important. He was not magically comfortable immediately. But instead of forcing the car toward the simulator expectations, Hamilton slowly adapted himself toward what the SF26 actually wanted on track. Earlier braking, smoother steering, less aggressive corner entry, tiny instinctive changes that looked almost invisible from the outside, but completely transformed the balance underneath him. And this is where Ferrari engineers started noticing something fascinating. The less Hamilton tried to force the perfect setup behavior, the more competitive he became. That should seriously concern Ferrari internally, because Formula One teams depend on simulator trust. Without that trust, development becomes chaotic. Drivers stop believing in setup direction. Engineers stop understanding which feedback matters most. Everything becomes reactive instead of controlled. And Canada may have been the first race where Hamilton's experience actually became more reliable than Ferrari's own predictive tools. That is a huge statement, especially when you remember what happened to Leclerc emotionally during the same weekend. While Hamilton slowly built confidence, Charles completely lost it. One driver adapting around the instability, the other drowning inside it. and Ferrari engineers were watching two completely opposite realities unfold inside the same garage. That terrified the team more than the final result itself. Because elite Formula One teams need consistency, shared understanding, predictability. Canada exposed the opposite. And now Ferrari faces a terrifying question moving forward. If Hamilton succeeds by trusting instinct over simulation, what does that say about Ferrari's current development system? Then the race itself exposed the problem in the most brutal way possible. Because once the lights went out in Canada, Hamilton and Leclerc immediately started driving the SF26 in completely opposite ways. And the contrast became impossible to ignore. Leclerc kept searching for the balance Ferrari expected from the simulator. Hamilton stopped searching entirely. That sounds small, but it isn't. Because Formula One drivers usually trust preparation almost religiously. Every braking point, every energy deployment map, every setup adjustment is built around simulation work completed before the race weekend even begins. But Canada slowly pushed Hamilton into a completely different mindset. Adapt to reality. Forget the prediction. And lap after lap, that decision started changing everything. At first, Lewis looked cautious, measured. He was not attacking aggressively in the opening phase of the race. But Ferrari engineers noticed something important almost immediately. Hamilton's tire temperatures stayed more stable. His braking inputs became smoother. The SF26 stopped fighting him under corner entry. Meanwhile, Leclerc kept struggling with instability that never truly disappeared. And this is where the simulator issue becomes fascinating. Because if the virtual data predicts one balanced behavior, but the real car reacts differently on track, drivers naturally begin forcing incorrect solutions. Think about using a map that says a road turns left, when in reality it turns right. Eventually, every correction becomes wrong too. That was Leclerc's weekend. Every adjustment seemed to create another problem. More front instability, poor tire temperature control, less confidence under braking. And once confidence disappears in Formula One, everything collapses quickly. Hamilton escaped that spiral by doing something almost old school. He trusted feel over data, experience over prediction, instinct over simulation. And honestly, that may explain why his performance looked stronger the longer the race continued. Because once Hamilton stopped expecting the SF26 to behave perfectly, he began driving around its weaknesses naturally. That is elite experience. And Ferrari engineers could see it happening in real time. The steering corrections disappeared. The braking confidence increased. The tire management improved lap after lap. Then came the safety car after George Russell's retirement. Everything compressed together instantly. Fresh tires, clearer air, aggressive strategy opportunity. And suddenly Hamilton looked transformed. Not just comfortable, dangerous. For the first time all season, he attacked the SF26 instinctively instead of cautiously. The overtake attempts on Verstappen looked natural. The Racekraft looked sharp. Even the radio communication sounded calmer and more controlled. That usually means one thing in Formula One. The driver has finally connected emotionally with the car underneath him. Meanwhile, Leclerc's confidence kept collapsing in the opposite direction. Charles later admitted he never truly found a single lap where the Ferrari felt natural all weekend. That statement matters enormously, because elite drivers almost never lose trust completely unless the car behaves unpredictably beneath them. And now Ferrari faces an uncomfortable possibility internally. What if the simulator is not simply inaccurate? What if it is actively sending the drivers in the wrong direction? That question is terrifying for a top Formula One team, because simulators are supposed to reduce uncertainty, not create it. And if Hamilton's instinctive adaptation is outperforming Ferrari's predictive systems, then Maranello may have a much deeper development problem than just setup balance. Especially because Canada exposed another dangerous layer underneath everything: the engine deficit. According to the concerns emerging after the race, Ferrari may still be more than 20 horsepower behind Mercedes. That means the drivers are already being forced to overcompensate everywhere else. Later braking, more aggressive corner exits, harder tire management. And if the simulator is also misguiding setup direction at the same time, the entire car becomes psychologically exhausting to drive. Hamilton somehow adapted around that chaos. Leclerc could not. That difference may end up changing the entire internal balance of Ferrari moving forward. Because Canada revealed something extremely important beneath all the tension and confusion. Lewis Hamilton no longer looks like a driver trying to understand Ferrari. He looks like a driver starting to understand how to beat Ferrari's own weaknesses. But Ferrari's biggest problem after Canada may not actually be the simulator itself. It may be what Hamilton's success suddenly means for the entire structure of the team. Because once one driver starts outperforming the system instead of following it, internal tension changes completely. And Canada may have been the first race where Ferrari quietly realized something uncomfortable. Lewis Hamilton's instincts may currently be more reliable than Ferrari's own predictive tools. That is an enormous statement in modern Formula One. Because today's cars are built around data. Everything is calculated, simulated, predicted. Teams want drivers operating almost like extensions of the engineering department. But Hamilton's Canada performance looked completely different. Old school, reactive, human. And the terrifying thing for Ferrari is that it worked. While Leclerc kept searching for the correct balance, Hamilton stopped chasing perfection and simply drove what the car gave him. That mentality completely changed the race. Think about walking through a storm. One person keeps trying to predict every gust of wind. The other simply adjusts step by step naturally. Eventually, the second person moves forward faster. That was Hamilton in Canada. And Ferrari engineers could literally see the difference unfolding lap after lap. Lewis became calmer as the race evolved. Leclerc became more frustrated. The same SF26 was creating completely opposite emotional reactions. And that is where the danger inside Ferrari really begins. Because once drivers stop trusting the simulator equally, development direction becomes incredibly complicated. Which feedback matters more? The driver adapting naturally on track? Or the driver still trying to follow the predicted setup window? Canada may have forced Ferrari into that exact dilemma. And honestly, the timing could not be more explosive. Because while Hamilton is finally building confidence with the SF26, Ferrari is simultaneously fighting two other major crises. The unresolved simulator correlation problem, and the engine power deficit. That combination is terrifying for engineers, because now every setup decision becomes emotionally loaded. If the simulator says one thing but Hamilton's instincts say another, who does Ferrari follow? Especially after Canada proved Hamilton's approach delivered results. Second place, a podium fight with Verstappen, his best Ferrari performance yet. Meanwhile, Leclerc openly described the weekend as one of the worst experiences of his entire career. That contrast changes everything inside a Formula One team. Momentum starts shifting naturally. Mechanics feel it. Strategists feel it. Engineers absolutely feel it. And Ferrari may now be entering the most dangerous phase any top team can experience. A split identity. One side of the garage trusting adaptation and feel. The other still searching for technical answers through systems and simulation. That divide can become incredibly destructive if results continue separating the drivers. Especially at Ferrari, where pressure multiplies after every race weekend. And now comes the truly fascinating part. The next races may actually strengthen Hamilton's position even more. Especially Monaco. Because Monaco is almost impossible to simulate perfectly. The walls, the bumps, the confidence under braking, the rhythm through corners. Drivers rely heavily on instinct there. Exactly the area where Hamilton suddenly looked transformed in Canada. That should seriously concern the rest of the paddock. Because if Hamilton's feel-based adaptation continues outperforming Ferrari's predictive systems at Monaco too, the internal balance inside the team could shift permanently. Suddenly the project stops feeling like Ferrari teaching Hamilton how to drive the SF26. It starts feeling like Hamilton teaching Ferrari how the SF26 actually wants to be driven. And if that happens while Ferrari slowly fixes the engine deficit later in the season, the rest of Formula One may look back at Canada as the exact moment everything inside Maranello quietly changed.